Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside. Hey scrappers, Tom here, and it is October 2nd, 2024. Welcome to the fourth quarter. Dun, da, da, da. We've made it through the first 9 months of the year. You know, the world hasn't completely collapsed yet, and hopefully we'll be able to see some more market news coming out. But we've had a very good week when it comes to scrap, and we're going to talk about a bunch of these different things, but there's a couple of topics that will come to my mind today, and people are going to be asking questions, and we're doing this live. So if you have questions, by all means, please ask us. So if we can answer them when we're live, wouldn't that be great? If not, ask them after, and we'll always get you those answers, whether it's in next week's report or in one of the YouTube videos that we're working on. The port strike, right? Let's just talk about that. We have an unprecedented port strike that hasn't happened in, I think, like 40 or 50 years. And ports from Maine down the East Coast into the Gulf Coast are not operating. What does that mean for scrap? Well, a lot of scrap gets exported, which means it gets loaded into barges or gets loaded into containers if it's like copper or non-ferrous, and gets shipped overseas. China, India, Turkey, lots of different places buy copper from the United States. I heard a stat this morning at one specific port on Sunday. They had 3 ships waiting to be unloaded. This morning, Wednesday, they have 38 ships that are now waiting to be unloaded. Why and how does this affect scrap? Well, those products that come out off of those ships go into the U.S. economy. It could be food, cars, electronics, whatever. But those barges that deliver them, they then get reloaded with products that the United States produces, not just scrap metal. It could also be, weapons, medicine, whatever's being manufactured and being exported. So now you don't have the ability to unload ships that are full of goods and food that the U.S. needs. That's going to suck. Then you can't reload those ships. So you're going to have delays. And now you have the entire East Coast and Gulf Coast of the country not able to ship things out of the ports. If this lasts for more than a week, we're going to see major disruptions when it comes to pricing and when it comes to transportation and scrap, because you just can't have scrap yards piling this stuff up. So that port strike is going to affect the export market. Okay, well, Tom, we still have copper mills inside of the country. There's still steel mills inside of the country. Yeah, absolutely there is. But here's the problem. They're used to having whatever their normal flow is. So think about it. If there's 2 grocery stores in town and one is shut down, what's going to happen to the other one? It's going to be flooded with customers from the store that's shut down. That's what's going to happen to the copper mills, the steel furnaces, the aluminum smelters inside of the US and Canada. They have their regular customers that bring them material. Now they're going to be getting customers that would normally export, because a guy like Rockaway Recycling or hundreds or thousands of other scrapyards, we just can't keep sitting on this copper and having it piled to the roof, because the money has to be able to turn over. So even with copper prices up 6% in the last week, you heard me correctly, copper prices are up, and they're trading at $4.62 today, highest since June, or maybe last week. I guess we hit a similar number. So last week we hit it and then it receded and it came back. But we're seeing copper prices up. We're seeing demand up. But we're going to start to see restrictions on the markets. That's going to hurt the scrap prices. And I'll explain how. Let's say a scrap yard likes to make whatever their 10 cents a pound is, right? I don't know. And when they go to sell to someone, that guy makes 10 cents a pound. Well, now that 20 cents profit, right? It might become 30 cents, but 10 cents of that is just we can't pay as much because the export market's dried up and we don't have competition, so we don't have to sit here and work tightly. That's going to have a trickle down effect from the mills to the scrap yards to you and your prices. So while the prices are up, yay, right? The only thing I recommend holding this week is stainless steel. I would sell everything else. I would sell your bear braid that I've been telling you to save for 3 months. I would sell your rotors. I would sell your aluminum. I would sell everything right now. I couldn't care less if the market goes up 30 more cents. We just had a market that went up 60 cents in the last few months. That shouldn't have happened, but it did. Reasons. One reason is Chinese stimulus measures. The Chinese were talking about injecting $148 billion into their economy. That started the jump in pricing. Yippee. Then the port strike hit. Uh-oh. Wah, wah. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So, when I see these markets moving and changing, I really look at them and say, okay, there's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad, because all those people on the East Coast that can't ship stuff, they're not going to put it in a tractor trailer to ship it across the country on Route 80 to California to get it loaded and shipped to China. It's just not going to happen. That's triple the freight rate. So we're going to have problems, and it's all going to depend on how long this strike lasts for. But stainless, I would continue to hold, even with nickel prices up to some of their highest levels in the last few months. There are hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions of pounds, that I know of, which means there's a hell of a lot more than that, held on the sidelines. If you start to see stainless prices jumping 10, 15, 20 cents a pound in the next few months, I will tell you to sell it, because I think it's going to be so short-lived. If you look at some of the prices we have online, I think we've had like the most steady price for stainless in the low 30s average right now. It's just not moving. So scrap yards aren't moving their stainless, and if they are, they're just making pennies, right? And don't feel bad for the scrap yard, but those prices are poo-poo right now. So even with nickel prices up, we're still not seeing those markets increasing when it comes to stainless right now. It really, really sucks, but it is what it is. So other things going on in the news. Don't forget, we're live Wednesday, October 2nd. So we're live right now, so ask questions. So let's talk about steel for a second. We really haven't seen a lot of nice news on steel. I read an article the other day that said reduced steel production in the United States was down 1.7% through the month of August. It's led to a stagnant or declining ferrous scrap price domestically. That's only going to get hurt more because we can't export that steel. It will not shock me to see steel prices going down. I'm not even going to go into great depth or detail about the problems in the Middle East with Israel, Iran, Lebanon right now. That's affecting oil prices, which were up over 1% this morning. If that conflict continues or escalates more, you're going to see oil going up, which means fuel's going to go up, which means trucking's going to go up, which means steel prices are going to continue to go down. Wah, wah, wah. I mean, I think light iron's like 120, 135 a ton. There we go, up on the screen right now, 136 a ton for light iron right now. Scrappers, that's unacceptable, but that is where we're at right now. You're not seeing that commercial building. You're not seeing the heavy industrial investments. You're not seeing these factories opening up like all these administrations say they are. You're not seeing the commercial growth, and that's going to hurt the markets. We've seen a few gains. Like I said, we've seen aluminum going up. We've seen zinc prices going up a little bit. So those are a couple good things. Investing.com had a great article talking about copper prices surging on renewed optimism for Chinese demand after the stimulus package. Again, that also may be short-lived. Was it last week that they did the rate cut? Last week, 2 weeks ago, they did the rate cut where they cut it by half a basis point. That was supposed to inject a little more money or a little more juice into the market. That was already baked into the pie for the month of August. So that wasn't a market mover. We'll be looking in a few weeks to see if they drop rates again, if they drop them by like a quarter point or a half a point. I know these aren't sexy topics, but they are ones that affect the scrap prices. We're just going to have to see, because the Chinese stimulus package that's been floated in the past, and it generally gives temporary boosts in prices, but doesn't give long-term sustainabilities in prices. It's really more of our economy is kind of crap right now, and we need to, speed it up a little bit. That's just not going to happen. So now we got the docks going, and that's going to affect supply chains, pricing, trucking, everything. If you remember a few months ago when that bridge collapsed in Baltimore, that had massive problems on that terminal. Imagine we just shut down 40 or 50 terminals. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a financial guru to know that if you can't get products off a ship, you can't get them on a ship, there's going to be problems somewhere, because the United States imports thousands of containers every day of products, food, medical devices, medicine. So we may be seeing a little issue, and hopefully it gets resolved relatively quickly. We had a couple of questions that I'd like to talk about last week. We had a YouTube comment that popped up, and it said, there seems to be a lot of triple handling at the scrapyard regarding materials being moved from point A to point B to point C. Why wouldn't a scrapyard use something like chemical electroplating the way that a mine would to separate copper from other materials? That's a heavy question that I didn't expect to be answering right now. Kudos to you for knowing what electroplating is. I learned about it about a year and a half ago, but you just can't do these things. Scrapyards, my scrapyard, we touch things as few times as possible. So a customer unloads it, we put it into our own bin. That's one touch. We need to pick that bin up, bring it to a processing center. That's 2 touches. The guy has to pick up the material and process it. That's 3 touches. They take the finished product to the outbound. That's 4 touches. Then they have to weigh it and ship it. That's 5 touches. So things always happen in multiple touches. And if it was as easy as just throwing things onto a sorting table and it's sorted automatically, that would be great. That doesn't exist. It's called hands, right? Those are the sorters. You can pull steel out. You can pull the iron ore out when you're doing mining. Copper doesn't stick to a magnet. Aluminum doesn't stick to a magnet. So it's a great idea, but it's not a good executable kind of a thing. Another comment we had from Facebook is, we shift to EVs. Why hasn't there been any movement regarding scrapping lithium-ion batteries? It seems like no one accepts them. Yup. And that's going to be for a long time. There's a humongous company named Retrieve out of Nevada that is trying their best with hundreds of millions of dollars of government subsidies to take these lithium-ion batteries and these other type of specialty batteries and grind them down into a powder to be able to separate the copper, separate some of the things, the iron and other materials that are in there. So they just have the lithium. Well, here is the problem. What do you guys hear all the time about electric vehicles, backup batteries, even the vape cartridges? What do you hear about? You hear about fires. Why? Because when you don't handle them properly, they catch on fire, and water doesn't put them out like it would a regular combustible engine. So a lot of recyclers, myself included, we don't want these batteries inside of our warehouses. What if they catch fire overnight? We don't want them outside. What if they catch fire overnight? Auto dismantlers that are getting hybrids, getting electric vehicles in, are scared out of their mind for one of these batteries to not be decharged, or not decharged. When you take a battery and you take all the juice out of it. Not good video. You're not going to have a battery come in with no charge, right? De-energized was what I was looking for. You're not going to have a de-energized battery come in. So when that battery comes in, I don't care if it's at 5%, it still has juice. And if you have juice in it, it can catch on fire. And I don't see any of these scrap yards going really hot and heavy to be able to bring these things in. I've been following it and have monthly phone calls with different larger recyclers about these. And I'm still not doing it. And I'm trying to be on the front end of the forum, but it's just not there because there's not a positive return yet on the scrap. Where copper, you throw it into a pot and it melts down. Lithium, you throw it into that same pot, it's going to blow up. So major issues.
What should people do if they do come across
If people come across them, I would talk to your scrapyard. If the scrapyard doesn't have an answer, I would talk to your local town recycling center. You pay taxes, whether it's through rent that goes to, or through a mortgage. There's taxes being paid to your towns. They have responsibilities to recycle properly. I would go right to them and figure out what to do on laptop batteries, cell phone batteries, rechargeable battery backups, those type of things. Not lead acid batteries, the lithium ion based. Go to your town and hold them accountable. But a lot of retailers like Best Buy will take some of these devices back. So at least it's going somewhere with other things and they have checks and balances on it. So hopefully that kind of helps you out there. I didn't talk about catalytic converter prices, but we have seen a really nice growth, scrappers. I mean, I'm looking here, platinum up 3.5%, palladium about even, rhodium up, but we're looking at numbers that are about 6.5%, 7% higher than we've seen in a while. So our cats, we've seen average prices for these catalytic converters for OEMs ticking upwards. We're not seeing huge growth movements like we're seeing on the gold side of things, where people are predicting 2,700 an ounce is like today or tomorrow, and 2,900 an ounce on gold by January. So platinum is starting to have a little strength, but don't forget, a lot of the metals in these catalytic converters are only used for catalytic converters, right? Platinum, sure, a little jewelry, but rhodium and palladium mostly being used in some type of a filtration system, whether it's for a big plant, a small car, a big truck, right? So the DPFs, the catalytic converters. So we're pushing more to electric vehicles, like it or not. That's what's happening, right? And as that happens, you're going to need less of these metals because you're not going to have as many catalytic converters out there. And as we electrify the country, you're going to get rid of some of these catalysts because there's not going to be emissions out there. So I personally would continue to sell cats as I get them in. You do what you want to do, but we're seeing some nice price increases over the last week, which is really great. Other than that, scrappers, markets have been moving. I could go into 1,000 different things. I'm really excited for 5 weeks from today because the election will be over and we're going to know what we have moving forward, for better, for worse, or for better, whatever side of the aisle you're on. At least this chaos will hopefully be done. And if that's done at that point, we'll be able to recalibrate before Thanksgiving and going into the end of the year and just give you a better idea on what's going on with the markets. But next week, we're going to do a Q3 update, so please stay tuned for that. Any other questions, let us know. And until next week, I'm Tom, and I'll scrap you later.
Thanks for watching our video. For $2.99 a month, by becoming a member, you can get access to early videos, member-only videos, merchandise discounts from our store, and priority comments that we answer before answering any other scrappers. Click the link below to learn more. Until next time, scrap you later.